Chapter 23 of Zhang Henshui's Golden Fen family. Sudden suspicion arises in Feng Ying, and Zhen becomes jealous. He spends his free time having fun, and the young master calls out for his poverty. Pai Feng didn't return home all night because of Feng Zhu and was thinking about it. When she heard Li's mother saying that he was sleeping outside, she hurriedly came out to take a look. On the other hand, he said, "I don't know where he came from last night. He would lie down here. He would be exposed to the cool breeze and get sick." While saying this, he pushed Feng Zhu with his hand and said, "Go in and sleep. Why are you lying down here?" Feng raised his hand and twisted around and said, "Don't make trouble. I want to sleep." Pai Feng said, "Look, he is confused and shaking the hammock." He said, "If you don't go in, the sun will come over soon." Feng Zhu twisted his body again and said, "Don't make trouble." Just as he was turning over, there was a piece of gray in the pocket of his suit. The thing stuck out a horn. Pai Feng casually took it out and pulled it out, but it was a photo. It turned out that staying out all night and carrying something like this on my body was really unexpected. Yanxi is young, and this photo is particularly clear, so it looks very good. Pai Feng was gone, but after seeing it, his heart skipped a beat. Facing that photo, I stood there in a daze for a while, unable to explain why, thinking that since there were photos, there might be something else, so he simply reached into Feng Zhu's pocket and touched it. I touched the photo and put it in my pocket first, but there was nothing there. Searching here again, I found more than a dozen small business cards. The names include Beggar and Jade, with their classes and phone numbers also written next to them. Only then did Pai Feng understand that Feng Zhu had spent the night wandering around in an alley last night. But when he went shopping, it was only 3 or 2 houses, so why were there more than a dozen girls giving him business cards? What a strange thing. Standing next to Feng Zhu, he assessed it for a while, then took the photos and business cards into the room. Feng Zhu was sleeping in the hammock, so he let him sleep without asking anything. Feng Zhu lay in the wind and slept well. He slept until about 12 o'clock. A ray of sunlight in the shadow of the tree hit his face, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. Then he slowly woke up. When Li Ma saw it, she asked, "Master, aren't you going to sleep?" Feng stretched out his hands, yawned and said, "Go get some water. I'm not going to sleep anymore." He got off the hammock and rubbed his head with his hands. After the distribution, "Go into the house." I saw Pai Feng holding a novel in her hand and lying on a wicker chair to read it. On the coffee table next to her, there was a glass of sherbet and a plate of fruit. She was swaying with her feet on top of each other, looking very interesting. Feng Zhu smiled and said, "You will feel comfortable?" Pai Feng was holding the book to cover his face, lowered the book a little, glanced at the top of the book, still raised the book and ignored him. Feng Zhu didn't pay attention at this time and went into the room to wash his face. After washing my face, I saw that my clothes didn't look like sleeping, so I took them off and found a set of casual clothes in the closet to change into. As I was putting on my clean clothes, I suddenly remembered that I still had business cards and photos in my bag. I had to hide them. If my wife saw them, another problem would arise. But when I reached into the bag and touched it, both were gone. I remember when I got home, I touched my pocket and found it was still inside. If I had to throw it away, it must have been thrown at home. I also remember that when I was sleeping well, Pai Feng once shook her body and screamed. I'm afraid she was the one who took it. Then she walked into the main room and said, with a smile, "Did you take the things from me? Those are not mine." Pai Feng only read her book and ignored it. Feng Zhu said, "Hey, I'm talking to you. Don't you hear me?" Pai Feng continued to read her book and ignored it. Feng Zhu said, "Wu Pai Feng, I'm talking to you." Pai Feng put the book in front of her chest and said with a straight face, "What is the purpose of naming people with the surname Tao?" Feng Zhu said with a smile, "This is awesome. It's difficult. I don't know that I'm talking to you if I don't call you by name. If you call me by name, what should I do?" Pai Feng said, "You can do whatever you want." Feng Zhu looked at Madam's situation. Needless to say, that case must have been committed. Because he said, "You don't believe me when I say this. The photo in my bag belongs to someone else. I stole it deliberately as a joke." Pai Feng listened silently for a while then said, "You think I'm a 3-year-old child, and you're using these words to accuse me. The photo belongs to someone else, but are the dozen or so business cards also theirs? You brought someone else's business card? Is this considered a joke?" Feng Zhu said, Why not? My friend put the photo and business card on the table, so I brought them together. Pai Feng said, which of your friends is so rich? The brothel went to visit him at his home. Is his home an agency for brothels? I don't care. Where did you come back at dawn last night? Fengju said, playing cards at a friend's place. Pai Feng said, where was it? The family is playing cards? Where are they playing cards? Fengju was a little impatient when he saw her asking. She said with a straight face, you're questioning me a little too harshly. Don't you allow me to spend the night outside? Pai Feng saw that he was getting tougher, and she didn't accept it even more. After looking at the station, he put the book on the wicker chair and said, that's right, you are not allowed to spend the night outside. Fengju said, you also play cards outside at night, but I can't. Pai Feng said, everyone else can do it, but you can't. Fengju said, why can't I? Pai Feng said, because your conduct is not good. The couple's quarrel got worse and worse. Fengju couldn't hold it back, and he couldn't. When I saw something to vent my anger on, I saw a small glass vat containing fruit on the table and punched it, knocking the vat to the floor. Because of the force, the vat fell down and was shattered. When I got excited about playing, I saw a teapot and tea bowls on the table above, so I walked over to play again. Inside the tea bowl was a pair of porcelain cups from the Qingqiu porcelain kiln, which were Pai Feng's favorites. Seeing Fengju looking like he was about to hit him, he quickly stepped forward to stop him. She rushed forward, and her momentum was naturally fierce. Fengju thought Pai Feng was going to make a move, so he stepped forward, grabbed Pai Feng's arms, and pushed him outward. Pai Feng was unprepared, her feet failed to stand firm, and she leaned back. Unable to stand, she sat on the floor. In this way, the disaster will be huge. Pai Feng shouted, okay, you hit me. After saying that, he stood up and said, you are unreasonable, but if you are reasonable, let's go to see your father all the way. Pai Feng finished speaking, was about to come to drag Fengju away, but 5 or 6 people from the courtyard in front and behind came in as if they had just flown early, and swarmed up and stopped Pai Feng. It happened that Mr. and Mrs. Heeson and Mr. Pengzhen were at home without going out. When they heard Feng lifting the Huseth this afternoon, Yanxi came back from outside. Just because Yufen had an appointment, the card game the day before yesterday was not finished, so today we have to redetermine the outcome. As soon as he got to Yufen's place, the little girl, Qingqiu said, the uncle and the young mistress were fighting. Everyone was there, but the 7th master didn't look around. When Yanxi heard about it, he hurried over. I saw Minzi and Runzi also walking over. Runzi shouted in the yard, the weather has not reached the time when the autumn is high and the horses are fat. Why are they fighting? When Yanxi saw his sister telling a joke, he realized that it was not a big problem. So he asked, what's wrong? Runzi said, I just came back from outside. I heard my eldest brother talking about his family's problems in front of me, and I realized that there was a quarrel behind me. As he spoke, the 3 siblings walked into the house. Go. The tears on Pai Feng's face were still there, lying on a wicker chair, talking to Yufen and Huiqing. Yufen said, come on, just pretend to be vague, and you'll get the better of it. Your parents will definitely know about the trouble, but it's just to let the eldest brother get a few scoldings. Pai Feng said, I don't care whether he gets scolded or not. Even if he gets scolded, I can't settle it. Runzi said with a smile, should the negotiation be extended? If the elder brother is scolded, why should he, who is about to become a father, be beaten? Pai Feng couldn't help laughing and said, you are talking nonsense again. Old 7th is still here. Yufen said with a smile, 6th sister still has the ability. We talked in vain for a long time, but my sister-in-law didn't pay attention at all. As soon as you walked in, she smiled. It's not that I can say it, and it's not that I'm particularly popular, but when it comes to my sister-in-law's coke, she can't help but laugh. Everyone laughed and laughed. The anger has gone down a lot. Yanxi was the only one, a figure of the opposite sex. It was difficult to say anything among the others, so he could only walk on the corridor and look at the flowers and plants in the yard. Under the stone steps, there were originally a few clumps of exotic ferngrass planted there. Now in early autumn, the grass is flourishing and growing extremely luxuriantly. Next to the ferns, a pair of bamboo scissors were thrown, covered with soil. It turns out that Gi Zhaolian takes care of the flowers and plants in this yard every day. Now that Zhao Lion has been away for 3 days, These scissors are just thrown here, which makes people feel like they are in a distant place. From this, I thought of Zhao Lian's life experience again. Now if she is really with Liu Chunjiang, that will be her happiness. I'm afraid that Liu Chunjiang acted out of sexual desire in the moment, and someone in the future will be unhappy and throw her down. I think Zhao Lian has nothing to say about her grievances. Although a person was in a daze, he held his hands on the pillars in the corridor and fell into a trance. Runzi said in the room, I saw Lao Qi here just now. How come he disappeared in the blink of an eye? Minzi said, that's what this kid is like. He is wandering around all day and night, lurking here and there. According to me, he said that he should be sent to a very strict school in a foreign country to learn more. He is so confused now, and doesn't know what kind of life he is living. Yu Fen said, what kind of life is he living? What about love? Life? I spend my whole day planning how to fall in love with someone. When Yu Fen said this, she quickly covered her mouth with her right hand and pointed towards the window, smiled softly and said, he hasn't left yet. Look, that's not his shadow. Runzi walked out and saw him staring blankly just in a daze, so he asked, what are you looking at? Yanxi suddenly realized, turned around and said with a smile, you guys were talking so loudly in the room that I couldn't get in any words, so I had to walk out. Runzi said softly, sister-in-law's anger hasn't subsided yet, we have to go. Let her calm down by playing cards. Yanxi said, I came here to play cards today. Of course I am a dime, but if I lose, can you lend me some money? Use it? Runzi said, what's wrong? You don't have any money? What expenses do you have to be so poor? Yanxi said, my father hasn't given me any money for half a year. How can I not be poor? Said, in March last year, I checked your account and found that you still had more than 2,000 yuan. Can you spend 500 or 600 yuan a month? Yanxi said, I don't know how you did it. Spend all the money. It's all gone. Not only do I have no savings at all, I'm also in debt. I borrowed 300 yuan from Aunt Kui and 300 yuan from my third sister-in-law. I still have some small sums here and there. It's $1,000. I can't get over this difficulty unless I find $1,000. Runzi said, $1,000 is a small matter. If you tell me how you got into this loss, I'll lend it to you. 1,000 yuan will allow you to pay off your debt. Yanxi said, this is a problem. I can only use it piecemeal. I can't say it, but I won't be in a loss. I think Sixth Sister doesn't use much money and always has some savings. I don't mind transferring 300 or 400 for me. Run Jidao said, you are borrowing money so hard. Let me ask you, where do you expect to pay back in the future? People? Before Yanxi could answer this question, Yu Fen also came out and asked, why are your two brothers doing the accounting here? Yanxi smiled and said, it's not accounting. I don't have money to play cards. We are here to raise money temporarily. Yu Fen said, how can I raise more money by playing some big and small cards? Yanxi said, I have other uses, old creditor. Can you lend me some? Yu Fen said, why do you need to borrow money? What about food? What about clothes? The three elder brothers have families, and they are not as hungry as you. She said, they all have errands, and they have expenses and income. I don't make any money. So why am I not poor? Yu Fen said, Dad gives you a monthly fee of 300 yuan. What do you do with it? Yanxi said, I have already spent half a year's money, and I don't dare to talk to my father until the end of next month. Sixth sister, third sister, I am here to pay my respects to you two old people. I can think of something for my brother. Method. As he spoke, he squatted down. Yu Fen smiled and said, okay, where did you learn this move? But we don't dare to accept your stinking flattery. No matter how old you are, you will pretend to be old. Yanxi smiled and said, this is worthy of a beating. I accidentally said it like this. This sentence of you old man is really outrageous. Just pretend you didn't hear it. The third sister is very generous with her money, and she is quite generous, so maybe. Yu Fen said, don't be so rough. I lost my briefcase. How much more do you think I can borrow? Let sixth sister and I make do. Runzi said, no, don't ask me to make do. I'm a cheapskate, a dime. Just as Yu Fen was thinking about what to say next, Qingqiu shouted all the way in and asked her to answer the phone. When Yu Fen heard about it, she turned around and left. When she reached the fence gate, she turned back to Yanxi and said, look at your luck. I made 100,000 public bond notes today, and I might earn 1,000 or 800. Now the call is coming. Yufan was walking and talking, but she didn't hear anything she said after that. After a while, Yufan came over with a smile on her face. Yanxi smiled and said, I borrowed the money. I saw the smile on third sister's face. She must have made money, maybe more than 1,000 or 800. Yufan said with a smile, you make a profit. It's gone. After saying these 4 words, he couldn't finish a sentence with a smile. Yanxi said, you can probably make a lot of money like this. How much is it? Yufan put her hands behind her back and leaned against the pillar in the corridor, leaning on one foot and tapping the floor tiles like a dragonfly touching water. Run Jidao, you are a poor man getting rich. It's like suffering. I don't know how much money you have made, but you will be happy like this. Yufan smiled and said, how big a fortune you have made. It's only more than 2,000 yuan. Yanxi said, third sister, how come you made so much money? Yufan said, what's the matter? It's just a matter of being a high-ranking official, if you dare. Those people in my family all like to do public debt. They are very well informed. It was said that the public debt was going to rise today, so yesterday I fiddled around, got 5,000 yuans, asked someone to deposit it in the bank, made a deposit, and immediately bought 100,000 yuans. This morning, I got it from my house. He called me and said that I could make money by selling it immediately. I listened to him and sold it. I just called back and said that I had made more than 2,000 miles of money. Runzi pointed at Yufan's face and said, be careful. I heard that some people in the public debt business jumped into the river and hanged themselves in the future. Pai Feng said, you guys, what's the point of talking about money outside for a long time? The 3 people walked in and talked about Yanxi borrowing money and Yufan doing public debt. Pai Feng said, after making all this money, treat me to a treat. Yufan said with a smile, didn't you hear? I lost my money and had to jump into the river. I'm going to lose money. Will you jump into the river with me? Hui Chang smiled and said, we'll talk about it when we jump into the river. Now that you have finally made money, let's treat you to the guests first. Yufan said, how do you ask for help? If you come up with a question, I will do it. Runzi said, today? Where is the play going tonight? Huiqing said, no. How much will it cost? Let's go to the Jinghua Hotel to have dinner and watch the dance on the roof, okay? Yufan stuck out her tongue. He smiled and said, this is a big blackmail. If you spend as much as possible, you won't be able to come back without 300 yuan. Yanxi said, that's really meaningless. It's better to have dinner at home and go to an outdoor movie. Run Jidao. That's more economical. You want to ask someone to borrow money and just speak for them, right? Yanxi said with a smile, that's not the case. Instead of going to a hotel and spending hundreds of dollars a night, Yuan, how can you give this money to me? Everyone discussed for a while, but the method was still undecided. The old maid on Yufan's side came over and stood outside the door, smiling gently, and said, third young madam, the table is set. Yufan said, who said we were going to play cards? What table are we setting? The old maid said, this morning you were still saying that we hadn't finished playing cards from the day before yesterday, so we were going to play again this afternoon. Yufan said, when I ask you to do something else, you always put it off as long as you can. You have sharp ears, and will hear things as soon as they are mentioned. You have to play cards, and you don't always play at my side. Why are you busy setting the table? I calculated that you may have made around 40 or 50 yuans in change this month. Is that not enough? Yufan said it again, and the old maid blushed, too embarrassed to say anything. Yanxi said, since it's ready, let's go play 4 rounds with the eldest sister-in-law. Pai Feng said lazily, you guys come. I'm not energetic. I need to take a nap. Yufan patted Pai Feng on the shoulder and said, come on, don't be angry. It's not good to get sick from vomiting in this hot weather. As she said that, Yufan hummed and twisted her body to push her. Pai Feng said, you have to act like this for the third master. What's the point of showing it to me? Runzi said, anyway, for everyone's face you just go. Pai Feng said, I'm not interested. I don't want to do it. Yufan said, you are not interested now. You just need to play a few rounds, and you will be interested. After saying that, she dragged Pai Feng away without saying anything. Pai Feng walked away with a smile, and said, look, do you still have a superior and inferior here? I'm going to hold up the sign of the eldest sister-in-law as the mother and slap you in the face. There is only. At this point, she saw Yanxi standing by and smiling, and said, no one forces gambling. These people didn't listen to her at all, and just dragged her away. When I arrived at Yufan's place, I saw that not only the table and cards were set up in the main room, but even the chips were neatly distributed. Hui Chang smiled and said, money is the only good thing in the world. You see, money can do such good things without having to pay for it. Yanxi touched the cards and said, who's coming come? Minzi said, seventh brother, is it true that you borrowed money from people? Yanxi said, of course it's true. Minzi said, if it's true, do you still have money to play cards? Yanxi said, I didn't want to come, because they made an appointment with me a long time ago, and I can't make up the difference if I'm short of a dime. Minzi said, nonsense. There are plenty of people here, but a poor guy like you is missing. Yanxi bowed to Yufan and said, I'll step back, you guys come. Yufan smiled and said, it's good that you came. Maybe you can win 200 or 300 yuan, which will be of some help to you. Yanxi said, what if I lose 200 or 300 yuan? Minzi said, don't say anything. It's better for you not to come. Did you win that card? Yanxi was a little afraid of Minzi. Minzi definitely didn't want him to come, so he had to give up. So he said, one for the eldest sister-in-law, one for the second sister-in-law, one for the third sister, and one for the sixth sister. This is it. I'll show the cards to the third sister, and if she wins, lend it to me. Yufan said, you like to talk too much. I don't want you to see it. Yanxi said, then I'll show it to the sixth sister, okay? Runzi said, I don't have money to give you, so don't show me the cards. Yanxi smiled and said, don't believe I can't find a customer, second sister-in-law. How about I show it to you? Huiqing said, you're a good match. I haven't planned to come yet. Yufan said, I'm sorry, but the eldest sister-in-law is here, so you won't come? Huiqing said, how big is the bet? I won't come if it's big. Yufan said, still, as usual, the base is 100 yuans. Hui Chang said, it's too big, let's give it a 50% discount. Yufan said, you can't lose much money, so come on. Hui Chang smiled and said, indeed, I don't bet that much. Fifth sister and I will open a limited company, okay? Minzi said, you guys really don't buy vinegar with the money you spend on soy sauce. Who made this rule that the base must be 100 yuans? How about changing it to 50 yuans? Pei Fang said, okay. After playing 4 rounds of cards, third sister has to treat us. It's not good to leave if you win too much. Yu Fen said to Hui Chang, this is all for you. We broke our old rules. Then the 4 of them sat down to play cards, and Minzi went back. Yanxi was left standing behind everyone to look at the cards. After looking for a while, he felt a little sore in his legs, so he walked out and saw Peng Zhen holding a bunch of paper and walking in with a smile. Seeing Yanxi, he handed it to him and said, what do you think of this? When Yanxi took it and looked at it, it was a few photos of costumes, one of which was Wu Jiapo, one of which was picking up the jade bracelet, one of which was the civet cat substituted for the prince, and one of which was the trial of the head and the punishment of the Tang. The male characters in the photos were all dressed up by Peng Zhen, while the female character was the famous Qingqiu Chen Yufeng. Yanxi said, they look very good. When were they taken? Peng Zhen said, Chen Yufeng brought it just now. I want to put it away. Don't tell them. If they know, it will cause trouble again. Yanxi said, is Chen Yufeng here? Peng Zhen said, in the small living room in front. Yanxi heard that Chen Yufeng was in the small living room in front, and he didn't hear Peng Zhen's second words, and walked straight over. Yanxi lifted the door curtain and saw Chen Yufeng wearing a light green brocade cloud long gown, a cloud shawl, tight waistcoat, and her hair was combed back as shiny as lacquer. She was sitting on a sun chair, leaning over to play with a small barking dog. When he turned around and saw Yanxi, he stood up quickly, then squatted down to greet him and called him Seventh Master. Yanxi walked up to him, shook his hand and said, it's been a long time since we last met. How are you? Chen Yufeng smiled and said, I saw Seventh Master just a few days ago. How can it be a long time? Yanxi said, yes, you sang Yu Tang Chun on Sunday, and I went to listen to it on purpose. But you were on the stage and I was in the box. We didn't talk, so we didn't meet after all. Chen Yufeng smiled and said, Seventh Master is studying hard now and doesn't listen to operas much. Yanxi said, what kind of study? I haven't read a book for a whole month, because the air in the theater is not good on hot days. I don't like to go there very much. As she spoke, she saw Yufeng holding a Zhangfei bamboo fan in her hand, and she wanted to come over to see it. There were colorful landscapes painted on it, and Yufeng's own name was written on it. Yanxi smiled and said, "Your painting has improved. Can you give this to me?" Chen Yufeng smiled and said, "A few rough paintings are not good. If Master Qi doesn't mind, you can keep it." Yanxi took his hand and sat down on the rattan couch. He smiled and said, "Your acting has improved, and you are also very good at speaking." While he was talking, Peng Zhen also came. He smiled and said, "It's inconvenient for me to let you sit here alone. Let Master Qi come to accompany you first." Chen Yufeng said, "It doesn't matter. I am familiar with the mansion." Then, she pointed to the little bark dog and said, "It knows me. As soon as Master San left, it came to accompany me." Yanxi smiled and said, "Yufeng, you deserve to be beaten for what you said. I scolded you, and you scolded yourself." Chen Yufeng said, "I was really careless when I spoke. Don't take it too seriously." Then, she stood up and wanted to pay her respects to Yanxi again. Yanxi took his hand and smiled and said, "It's said, what's the big deal?" Chen Yufeng sat down reluctantly. Peng Zhen said, "Yufeng, you said you would treat us to a meal, but till today, there is still no news. What's going on?" Chen Yufeng smiled and said, "Third Master didn't ask me to treat you. You said you would borrow my place to treat you. For this, I have cleaned up the house several times, waiting for it. I didn't ask Third Master, but Third Master asked me instead." Peng Zhen said, "Although I said that, I really want you to treat us. If we keep waiting, we will wait for a lifetime, and there will be no day to treat us." Yanxi said, "Since Third Master said so, Yufeng, why don't you treat us once?" Chen Yufeng said, "Okay. As long as Third Master and Seventh Master do me a favor, it's settled. I can prepare it in one day." Peng Zhen smiled and said, "The sooner the better. It's too late today. It's too late to send the invitations today. Will we send the invitations tomorrow? Will we invite people to dinner tomorrow?" Yanxi said, "Who else are you going to invite? Tell me." Chen Yufeng said, "I don't know who to invite. It's all up to Third Master." Peng Zhen smiled and said, "I want to invite two female guests. Is that okay?" Chen Yufeng blushed before she could say anything. Yanxi said, "They married their new daughter-in-law less than 100 days ago. Do they want to invite female guests and have them sing the transformation of a sheep at night?" Chen Yufeng said, "If not, ask Third Master. Did I ask for a ticket when I invited guests?" Peng Zhen said, "It's okay to ask for a ticket, but it's okay to invite female guests. There's a difference." Chen Yufeng said, "Just invite them. It doesn't matter if you invite all female guests. But first, don't let the people in the newspaper know. Once it's published in the newspaper, it will be a big scandal." Yanxi said, "What's the big deal? Aren't opera singers allowed to invite guests?" Chen Yufeng said, "It's not that they are not allowed, but once it's published, they will make a lot of jokes." Peng Zhen said, "It's better not to let outsiders know. What's the point of an ordinary dinner party being published in the newspaper and causing a sensation in the city?" Chen Yufeng said, "That's right. I have to go back and prepare now." Yanxi said, "What are you busy with? There's no rush. Sit here for a while. I'll go find a hukin and let you sing a paragraph." Chen Yufeng smiled and said, "Don't make trouble. Last time I sang here, just halfway through the song, the Prime Minister came back. I was so scared that I couldn't speak for a long time." Peng Zhen said, "He is also a fan of drama, and he often talks at home. But because he is too busy, he doesn't have time to go to the theater often." Chen Yufeng said, "It's better not to sing. If the Prime Minister knows, he will say that I often make trouble here, which is not good." As he said that, he stood up and seemed to be leaving. Peng Zhen smiled and said, "Sit for a while, sit for a while." At this point, several trees in the yard whirred, and Peng Zhen and Yanxi both smiled and said, "I can't leave, I can't leave." Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.